On the table for review today is the Burris MTAC 1-4x24 30mm scope. If you're not familiar with these types of scope, this is what's considered a low-powered variable optic. They are becoming quite mainstream. This one was sent over by Optics Planet to give you guys a good look at it, and that's exactly what we're going to do in this video. I got a link down there in the description box down below if you want to get a closer look at it, or a coupon code if you wanted to purchase this one. Now, Burris designed this scope as basically for 3-gun competitions and as a dangerous game kind of scope. It's good for fast engagements or targets on the move, or moving fast towards your targets. Going to go over all the features on this, give you a close look at it, and tell you what I like about it and what I don't like about it, which isn't much. This is a very nice scope in general, focusing primarily on the hunting aspect of it, as I do have this on my CZ527, but I do believe that this will perform very well on your AR type of rifles. The reticle inside of there is calibrated for 223 or 308, so this is going to do very well on this CZ527 and 223 as a compact, accurate little brush gun. So this scope does feature a true 1 power zoom out there. So essentially there is no zoom at 1 power. You're looking at a field of view at 100 yards inside of the scope at about 100 feet. With both eyes open, this is essentially just looking at through a ring. Essentially, if you had a scope ring, there is no zoom to it if you're at 1 power, which is very nice, very clear, and you can see everything going on around your target and right there basically at your target through the reticle. Now, it does have a 4 power selector, so you can go from 1 all the way to 4, and at 4 power you're looking at a 32-foot field of view in there, which isn't too bad at all. Now, this is a second focal plane scope and is great for short to mid-range shooting or hunting. You can easily pop in and out of your targets with this thing. The reticle picks up nicely, is very clean, and the red dot in there really adds for low light visibility, and we'll go a little further about that here in just a second. So taking a look inside of the scope here, you see you do have a illuminated option. It is a broken circle with a centered dot. This is an etched reticle, so if you take off the illumination, you still have your reticle inside of the scope, so if you ever lose battery power, you're still not out of the game. It's great for low light, but is not quite day bright. However, the illumination assists darker targets, so if you're scanning around, you're looking at brighter to lighter, darker targets. It really does help with the darker targets, but not quite day bright. However, the reticle itself is still contrasting fairly nicely on your brighter targets in the daylight. So you're just, essentially you can't really use this as a daylight illuminated reticle. So whereas this is not daylight bright, it is night vision capable, powered by a CR2032 battery, which is fairly common. The illumination knob has 10 intermediate settings. They call that their battery saver settings. So basically you get to 1 power, 2 power, 3 power, and in between there is an off setting. So you can basically set this if you want it to at 6, 7, 8, whatever setting you want it to, and then switch it to the off setting right next to it, which allows you to easily grab that rifle, turn it on, turn the scope on to the last setting that you had as closest to the ideal situations you're going to be in. Me, typically, I just leave it towards the 10 setting, and I can easily just drop it back to off and back to 10 whenever I want. However, if you're in the field, you're doing some hunting and low light visibility, you don't want to blind out your target that you're looking at level 10, again, easily set this for 5, 3, 4, or night vision and set it to the off setting right next to it. Allows you to switch that right back on to where you need it. So the reticle on this model is known as the Ballistic AR. They're also available in a Ballistic CQ, which I guess is close quarters, which would do very well for that, the design of that type of reticle. But me personally, I wanted to go with the Ballistic AR, again focusing on the hunting aspect of this. It's got subtensions out to 600 yards, and the lines in here are very clean, very crisp, clear, and precise. It's got a 0.25 mil center dot and a 1.75 mil inner broken circle. Allows for quick short distance or precise medium range shooting. And because there's not a lot of clutter in this reticle, it makes it very easy to pop in and out of targets at certain distances, close to far, side to side. Very easy to acquire. The reticle center doesn't seem so big in the video that I'm showing you here, but I can assure you when you have your face up to this scope, it is quite easy to find, and it contrasts very well against the targets that you're shooting at. So this Burris MTAC, being a low-powered variable optic, really does combine, your advantages of iron sights, red dots, and variable-powered optics into one little unit. That's the nice thing about low-power variable optics is that a lot of guys don't want to go to strictly a scope. They want to have iron sights. Well, some guys want to have red dots. Again, this is really going to combine all of that into one little unit and allow you to have the advantages of low light shooting with illuminated reticle, big enough to acquire fast targets, especially in low light, darker targets, and also to have your etched reticle in case your illumination goes out with a red dot. Well, you're out of luck. With this, with an etched reticle, you still have a reticle inside of there that you can use. And you can see right here by this demonstration, even a hasty cheek weld, which I'm trying to represent, still allows you to use the red dot that is inside of there, will allow you to be on target with both eyes open. You can see I'm zooming back and forth, very extreme edges of the scope, and still being able to pick up the red dot. This is the same if you have both eyes open. If you hastily throw your rifle up to your shoulder, not quite in the scope, but you can catch the red dot, you can still be on target with this type of setup. Which is again good why this is great for fast moving targets or a fast moving person trying to get to their target. Now again, this is a 1-to-4 power scope, so at 4 power, looking through this reticle with that 0.25 mil center dot really does allow you to take clean, precise shots out there, depending on your eyesight and visibility. At 4 power, this is still a great scope, and you can actually reach all the way out to 300 yards. No problem with this little center dot. That thing is so fine on there. I'm trying to represent this the best as I can in this video, but trust me, it looks very clean, very crisp, and especially with the illumination under low light conditions or a darker target, really, really nice to have that really clean setup inside of there at 4 power. So let's talk about the turrets for 1 second here. These are half MOA turrets that are covered. Again, going for the hunting aspect of this, or moving around a lot, you don't want to have to worry about your turrets getting bumped accidentally if they're exposed turrets. A lot of these low power variable optics do have open turrets on them. This is kind of nice, gives you that peace of mind, letting you know that there's absolutely nothing going to happen to your Zero. It's not going to get moved, hoisting the rifle up into a tree, climbing around in the bush, or running around at a 3-gun competition or anything like that. So the cap turrets are kind of nice, and again on the turrets themselves, half MOA, and you can reset these to 0 by pushing down on the turret itself, and then there is a little keyhole there that you can stick a tiny screwdriver or a nail and rotate that to the 0 position, allowing you a complete return to 0 once you find your 0. On these turrets, you get 130 MOA up, down, left, and right, which is very nice because if you're putting this on a 223 AK-47, you can guarantee to be able to find at least some kind of 0, even if you have a completely twisted rifle. The MTAC has a very sleek design right down to the power selector, although the power selector is a little bit stiff, but that's nothing that a throw lever can't resolve. And I would have liked to have seen, a throw lever with this scope type. Would have really helped with that stiff power selector. Comes with a rubberized eye ring that has a quick focus eyepiece on there to set it to your vision and forget it. And it also comes with a 4-inch eye relief that's actually fairly forgiving if you hastily throw the rifle up to your shoulder. It doesn't require you to be exactly in that sweet spot with this scope for some reason. It's actually very forgiving, very nice. Now, however, when you are on the 4th power or anything zoomed in other than your typical 1 power, it is a little more critical to get into that sweet spot with this scope eye relief being at 3.5. But at your 1 power, you're looking at about 4 inches eye relief, again, allowing you to be very hastily throwing this scope up to your eye there. The length of the scope overall is about 11.3 inches and it weighs in at about 14.5 ounces. The tube itself is a 1-piece tube, shockproof, fogproof, and waterproof. Again, if I didn't mention that, it comes with a Burris Forever warranty. All right, final thoughts on the Burris MTAC 1-4x24 30mm scope. In my opinion, great scope for the money, excellent quality, very clear, very precise, contrasting colors. The vivid picture that you see inside of the scope itself is almost as well as outside of the scope. So there's almost no difference between the outside surrounding colors, light and transmission, emission, and all that. Very nice scope. The only real complaint that I have is the illuminated reticle. That could have been at least 2 to 3 notches brighter than what it is to enjoy this as a red dot in the daylight shooting conditions. Now I know this is not a red dot, but the transition from using red dots could have been a whole lot more seamless if that illumination reticle would have been just a couple notches brighter. But outside of that, not bad. What I'll be using it for is low light condition assistance for hunting. So in that aspect of it, pretty good. And as you can tell, there's the 1 power is pretty much 1 power against anything past 2 to 3 feet. I think anybody shooting at 2 to 3 feet is not really going to notice having to shoot at anything and saying that's not 1 power. Get past 2 to 3 feet and you can see that this is damn near 1 power, if not exactly 1 power. No problem at all. It looks very clear, very minimal lensing inside of there at very close distance. Again, you'd have to really be at 2 to 3 feet away from an object. So that's basically all I got for you guys. I could have threw this on an AR-15 and did a review on it, but I figured I'd step outside of the box because there's plenty of low-powered variable optic videos out there on AR-15s. I figured I would apply this to a hunting application as low-powered variable optics are getting more and more popular and mainstream. It would be nice to see something on, say, this bolt-action CZ527, which is a great scope combination. If I haven't mentioned, these are Warren QD medium height rings, which I can run just fine on this CZ527. I'll also have that linked down there in the description box down below for Optics Planet if you want to get a closer look at those, as well as this scope here. We appreciate you guys watching, and we will catch you guys on the next video.